Okay, people, a very good evening to you. And today we are going to start with animal diversity, or basically biological classification, whichever chapter you want to call it. It's almost the first and foremost chapter in 11th standard for biology across all boards almost. Okay, so here we are primarily going to talk about the different types of animals, the different types of phylums, what are their characteristic properties and all these stuff. Okay, so yes, a little boring chapter and a little theoretical chapter as well, but apparently unless we have our basic concepts clear about the basic characteristics of all these animals, it will be difficult to cope up with further knowledge. Okay, so let's start here, people. We will start with animal diversity. Okay, we are going to start with animal diversity. So what do we have in first place? So there are different types of animals found in different environments, in different ways of lifestyles that they have. Okay, so there are different types of animals. So we are going to primarily study animal diversity, which is nothing but a language of complexity. So we will define how complex the animals are, what is the level of complexity in each and every species and in each and every phylum or subphylum divisions. Okay, so animals without vertebral column, these are obviously known as invertebrates. Then we have, so these do not have any vertebral column. So obviously all these animals without the vertebral column or the spinal cord are known as invertebrates. Okay, the very first thing that we have here is invertebrates. Animals which possess vertebral column. Okay, so these are all animals which definitely possess a vertebral column, and hence they are known as vertebrates. Okay, these are animals which can walk distinctively. Let us discuss 10 major invertebrate phyla. So we are going to discuss about 10 major phyla which are there in animals or what invertebrate species. Okay, the first one that we have is Porifera. Okay, the second one is Cnidaria, which is also going by the name of Colentrata. Then we have Ctenophora. Then we have Platyhelminthes, Annelida, Arthropoda, the entire insect kingdom, Mollusca, we have basically snails and all, Echinodermata, and then we have Hemichordata. All of these are without spinal cord or vertebral column. So these are 10 major phylum subdivisions that we have. Okay, we will go one by one. So the first kingdom that we are going to encounter is the phylum of Porifera, the phylum of Porifera. So let's look at what is Porifera basically. So Porifera is sponges. These are immotile animals. Although they belong to the animal species, they are incapable of locomotion on their own. So the moment things like incapable of their locomotion, it means that the food that they are getting is dependent on some other medium, which is of course water in this case. Okay, so the water enters their body through a pore and it leaves through a pore. Okay, so that water is basically carrying all the nutrients and oxygen and all that stuff. Okay, so a very simple level of organism, they will not have complex things like heart, circulatory system and all. Their entire circulation with regards to food, nutrition and everything takes place in presence of water. So all of these are aquatic. They can either be fresh water or they can either be marine. The sponges that we use for baths, okay, they are basically a version, they are the synthetic version today. Earlier we used to use these sponges. Okay, so that's the name where that name is basically coming from the kingdom of Porifera or sponges. So these are sponges. Phylum Porifera. The subkingdom for this phylum is Parazoa. Remember this, people, the subkingdom would be Parazoa. It is an evolutionary blind offshoot. Okay, it is an evolutionary blind offshoot species. Okay, so the first person to have discussed or actually found out about this phylum Porifera, the first person was Robert. The first person, oh, what happened? Why is this not? So Robert Grant was the first person to have discussed about or found out the kingdom of Porifera or sponges. Okay, okay. So Porifera, see, the word Porifera is made from the word porous. So the word Porifera is actually made from the word porous on ferrous. Porous bearing forms. Ferrous means form. So all these animals are highly porous because water enters through them. So they are definitely porous. They are definitely porous. Okay. Commonly called as sponges. They are known as sponges. Commonly they all are known as sponges, poriferas. Okay. So generally they are all marine animals. They are found in marine environment. They are also found in fresh water. For example, these families that you see here, Potamolepidae or Spongylidae, okay, Potamolepidae or Spongylidae, these are basically freshwater sponges. These are families of freshwater sponges. So there are sponges which are present in marine environment, and there are sponges which are present in aquatic freshwater environment as well. Okay. So this is how the sponges are going to look. They are fixed at one place. They seem to be plants, but actually they are not. They have a holozoic mode of nutrition, and they basically are immotile. They will not be able to move on their own. They will not be able to move on their own. So let's look at it. Primitive multicellular and sessile animals, they will not be able to move, and hence they are known as immotile. Primitive, which means that very little or almost no evolution for them has happened. Very little or no evolution for them has happened, and they are sessile animals. They are fixed to one place. They are fixed to one place. Some animals are radially symmetrical. If you see, you can divide them along their radius. You can divide them along their radius, and some are asymmetrical. You cannot divide them. For example, here it is radially symmetrical, which is their body can be divided along the radius, and some are radially unsymmetrical. They cannot be divided. Their body shape cannot be divided into equal halves. Okay, so these are asymmetrical. Cellular level of organization is seen, which means that they will not be up to the mark of tissue level. They will finish off at cellular level itself. So they are only at a cellular level. Tissues are not formed out of them. Body wall is composed of two layers. There is outer pinacoderm. The outer pinacoderm is actually made up of pinacocytes, and this outer pinacoderm is actually performing the same function as the outer layer of skin is performing in us. Okay, this same thing, the outer pinacoderm and the inner choanoderm, which is made up of choanocytes. Okay, so this is basically the two layers of the body. The body wall is composed of two layers. One is outer pinacoderm and the inner choanoderm, and in between them there is a gelatinous matrix called mesohyl. So this is basically a matrix, gelatinous matrix called mesohyl. In between them it is. Okay, so this is how it will look like. This is a sponge. This is a section of the sponge, and we are viewing it from inside. So these are known as amoebocytes. These, you see, these are known as amoebocytes. Osculum is the opening through which the water which has entered the body of the sponge leaves. Okay, then we have choanocytes. If you look into this, these are the choanocytes. Choanocytes basically make the pinacoderm. Okay, choanocytes. Okay, then we have ostium. Ostium is the place or the pore through which the water enters. These are porocytes. Okay, these are porocytes. Then we have mesohyl, which is basically the layer between the two body walls. Okay, this is made up of mesohyl, the gelatinous layer. Then we have spongocyl. Then we have spicules. These are spicules, or these are pointed structures. Okay, these are needle-like structures. Okay, and then we have the pinacocyte. So we have the choanocyte and the pinacocyte. The pinacocyte basically is the outer layer, and choanocyte is the inner layer of the body wall. In between is filled the gelatinous mixture, which is also known as mesohyl. All these are names and terms which needs to be remembered as characteristics of this. Then we have the ostium, through which the water basically enters. Okay, so water is in through these pores. Water enters through these pores. This is the central cavity, and this is the osculum through which water leaves. This is the amoeboid cell. These are the pores basically. This is the epidermal cell. So pinacocytes basically form the epidermal cell. These are spicules. Okay, then we have the flagellum. So choanocytes are basically made up of flagellum. This is basically the collar. Okay, so the water enters through the pores and it leaves. So their only medium of respiratory exchange of gases, or be it nutrition, or be it removal of waste, all of this is basically taken care of by water. Okay, they do not have any blood, they do not have any arteries, they do not have any veins, they do not have any respiratory organs like lungs, they do not have any pumping organ like heart. So everything is pretty much dependent on the water that their aquatic environment provides. Okay, so we have the canal system. Sponges have a water transport system or canal system that constantly conducts water. This constantly is conducting water. Okay, so we have the atrium here, osculum, choanocytes and porocytes. The water enters here. Water enters through minute pores called ostia in the body wall. So these are very minute pores which are located in the ostia in the body wall into a central cavity. This is basically the spongiocele. The spongiocele is basically the central cavity from where it goes out through the osculum. After it brings in the nutrients and all that stuff, the respiratory gases like oxygen and all, this is absorbed and then it is rendered out as waste. Okay, so there is a canal system. So transport of water is helpful in gathering food, that is nutrition filter feeders. These are nutrition filter feeders. Respiratory exchange of gases also happens through water and removal of waste also happens through water. So all these things, whether it is respiratory exchange of gases, whether it is removal of waste or whether it is gathering of food, all of this is basically happening from one medium, that is water. Okay, so nutrients and oxygen, they basically enter and the other waste basically leave. So nutrition is holozoic, they have a holozoic nutrition. Digestion is intracellular. Reserved foods are stored in the cells called thisocytes. So all these are reserved foods which are stored in the cells and these are called thisocytes. Okay, just one moment here. So as we saw in sponges, the nutrition is holozoic, which means they are dependent on others for their nutrition. They are dependent on water, the water brings in food and this is basically absorbed. The digestion is intracellular, which means that the food is directly absorbed into the cells. We have a separate digestion system. Okay, it is basically absorbed and the food is redistributed in the various cells and tissues of the body. However, the same doesn't happen in sponges. The food is directly absorbed in the cells, so it is inside the cell that the digestion takes place. Reserved food are stored in cells and these reserved foods are stored in cells called thisocytes. These are known as thisocytes. So this is basically reserved food. Okay, nerve cells and sensory cells are absent, so they do not show much coordination between the functions of the various parts of the body. So nerve cells are absent, so the control and coordination that is absorbed in complex living organisms including human beings is something which cannot be seen in sponges because nerve cells are totally absent. Okay, what else do we have here? The body is supported by a skeleton made up of calcareous or siliceous spicules or spongin fibers or both. Calcareous means made up of calcium, siliceous means made up of silicon or spongin fibers or both. So these are spicules, needle-like structures. So either they are made up of calcium or they are made up of silicon or spongin fibers or both. These are needle-like structures. Their body support is, or the skeletal system is basically made up of these. Okay, they do not have bones as we have in our body. Sexes are not separate. They are hermaphrodite or monoecious. So the male and female parts are not separate. So they are hermaphrodite or monoecious. Okay, asexual reproduction happens. There is no ways in which sexual reproduction can happen. So they are lower formats of organisms, and here the asexual reproduction either happens by fragmentation, budding, etc. Okay, so fragmentation is what happens, we have seen. Sexual reproduction is by formation of gametes. Okay, so sexual reproduction format. Okay, fertilization is basically internal. So the entire fertilization process happens inside the cell and hence it is internal. The cleavage that is there is holoblastic. So the cleavage is holoblastic, which means that inside the cell it forms blastomeres. Okay, and the development here is indirect. The development here is indirect, which means that it goes through various stages like larval stages and all. Okay, so that it will have indirect development. There will be a larval stage and finally it will develop. So the larval stages will basically be represented by this parenchyma, and in this parenchyma there will be trichomella, and in this trichomella again there would be amphiblastula. So all these are basically parts of the larval stage. Okay, amphiblastula. So this is basically the amphiblastula. Power of regeneration is very well developed. So obviously their mode of reproduction is asexual. So the power of regeneration is very much well developed in these organisms. Okay. Based on skeleton, phylum Porifera is divided into three classes. Very important, people. Okay. So what are the three classes that we have? Based on the skeleton, Calcaria, then we have Hexanelida, and then we have basically Demospongia. Okay, so Calcaria, Hexanelida and Demospongia, they will have different habitats, of course. Okay, and this is entirely a division of sponges based on their skeletal systems that they are made up of. The Calcaria species, they generally live in shallow marine waters, which means not very deep enough. Okay, these marine waters obviously means sea and oceans. They live in deeper parts of the sea, and they live in both marine and fresh waters. These are Demospongia can live both in marine as well as in fresh waters. Okay, they are solitary or colonial. They can exist as independent solitary mode, or they can be existing in colonial formats, which means that they can exist in a cluster, in a group. Okay, they are obviously solitary. They live in the deeper parts of the sea and they can stay alone. They are solitary. They are colonial. They are perfectly colonial, which means they will basically stay in large groups. They are colonial. Okay, so very important part, people. Body structure is simple. Here the body structure is complex, and here the body structure is complex. So Calcaria have a very simple body structure, whereas these two species have complex body structures. So this is a division of sponges based on whether they are Calcaria, Hexanelida or Demospongia. Okay, more divisions out here. Calcaria spicules are calcareous. So the spicules are the needle-like structures that support the skeletal framework of sponge in calcareous sponges are basically made up of calcium. Spicules are 6 rare, and that's the reason they are known as hexatinal and siliceous. Obviously they are made up of silicon. Okay, skeleton consists of siliceous spicules other than 6 rare or spongin fibers, or both or skeletal structures may be absent altogether. So they can be either made up of spongin fibers. The spicules can be either made up of spongin fibers or siliceous, that is silicon, or they may be absent altogether. Okay, we have spicules are made up of calcium carbonate. Simply that is the reason they are known as Calcaria. Okay, these spicules are made up of silicon dioxide, that is glass. Okay, glass spicules are there. These are made up of silicon dioxide, and then we have spicules are made up of silicon dioxide where there are siliceous spicules, or wherever there are spongin fibers, there would be spongin fibers itself. Okay, Calcaria and more differences. Examples: Sycon, Scypha, Leucoselenia, Grantia. Okay, examples: Eupalectula, Venus flower basket. This is also known as, this is a common name. Hylanoma, that is glass rope sponge. Okay, glass rope. The reason why we are calling this as glass rope is because their spicules are made up of silicon dioxide, which is nothing but glass itself. Okay, and here we have Demospongia. Examples: Spongilla, which are freshwater sponges. As we saw, Demosponges can either be found in fresh water or in marine water as well. So Spongilla, which is basically a freshwater sponge. Euspongia, that is basically bath sponge. This was extensively used in older times for bath sponges. Nowadays synthetic sponges have developed for bath sponges, but earlier they used to use bath sponges which are actually live animals. Calina, that is dead man's fingers. These are also known as dead man's fingers. The term Porifera is coined by Robert Grant, Louis Pasteur, Edward Jenner, Robert Hooke. So basically we are trying to solve some MCQs based on whatever knowledge we have gathered so far. So obviously this will be Robert Grant. This will be Robert Grant. The type of nutrition in sponges is phototrophic, chemotrophic, holozoic, saprozoic. So phototrophic, obviously they are not capable of generating their own food with the help of sunlight. Chemotrophic, no. Holozoic is the one that is there because they are entirely dependent on water and the food it is carrying along with it while entering the ostia. Okay, so that is basically Holozoic. In the class Calcarea, spicules are siliceous, calcareous, spongin fibers or lignin. Obviously it will be calcareous, that is made up of calcium. Examples for class Demospongia. Okay, these are basically, we saw Syconus Euspongia is basically an example. Okay, so this was pretty much about the class of sponges. Now we are going to move to the class of, or the phylum of Cnidaria or Colentrata. So Cnidaria or Colentrata, jellyfish is a classic example of Cnidaria. Cnidaria basically comes from the term they have poisonous mechanisms to defend or attack. They have poisonous mechanisms to defend or attack. If you go back, many people have, jellyfish is basically a little dangerous. Okay, it can sting and the sting can actually kill. Okay, so phylum Cnidaria, tissues and the radial body plan. So they have, so we saw in sponges it is only cellular level. In Cnidaria we move on to tissue level, tissue and radial body plan. Okay, so phylum Cnidaria or Colentrata, they are aquatic, mostly marine. They are found in marine water, salt water, solitary and colonial. They do not need to be colonial, they can exist independently. Sessile or free swimming. They can at times be fixed or they can be free swimming as well. They can be moving around the water, there can be locomotion as it happens in other animals. They are symmetrical, yes, they are radially symmetrical. Okay, so radially we can divide them. So these are certain sponges. Sea anemones are bilaterally symmetrical. So if you see, you can divide it into two equal halves. They are bilaterally symmetrical. The recent name Cnidaria is derived from the stinging cells called cnidoblasts or cnidocytes, and these stinging cells are basically poisonous. Okay, so the Cnidaria term comes from stinging cells which are present in them, and they basically can sting and they have poisonous content in them. So the recent name Cnidaria is derived from the stinging cells. Okay, cnidoblasts or cnidocytes are present mostly on the tentacles and the body. So these cnidoblasts basically secrete poison, and they can be used either in defense mechanism by the animal species, or it can be used to catch prey as well. Okay, so there are tentacles which are there, so are used for defense, anchorage and prey capture. At times this is used for defense to protect them from other animals, anchorage to anchor them, and prey capture obviously to attack and feed and capture their own prey. So cnidocytes, if you look at this is like this. These are stinging cells. Okay, these are pointed stinging cells and they can sting. So cnidarians are the first metazoans to exhibit tissue level of organization. So we have seen that sponges will only show cellular level of organization. Cnidarians are the ones to first exhibit tissue level of organization. So they are diploblastic. They are diploblastic. If you see, there is this body column, this is the pedal disc, there is an epidermal layer, this is mesoglea which is present between the outer and the innermost layer, then there is gastrodermis, there is gastrovascular cavity which is known as the gut. Okay, then they have tentacles which will basically, then there is the mouth. So these tentacles will have these cnidocytes or the poisonous stinging. Okay, so they are diploblastic animals. We have seen diploblastic is basically made up of two layers. Okay, so have gastrovascular cavity or colentron. So if you see, this cavity is there and this will be basically colentron, or this is also, that is the reason it's also known as Colentrata. So there is a hence the name Colentrata. Okay, they have a gastrovascular cavity. Only single opening, the mouth serving the purpose of ingestion and egestion, there being no anus. So in sponges we saw that there is an ostium and there is an ostia and ostium. So there is an inflow of water and then an outflow of water. So egestion occurs through one opening and ingestion occurs through one opening. But here the ingestion and egestion occurs through one single opening, which means that they would not have a proper anus. Colentron serves both digestive and circulatory function. So the cavity that we see, the gastrovascular cavity of colentron, which we see in the middle of cnidarians, will serve both for digestion, which will be helpful for digestion, and it will also assist in circulatory functions as well. Okay, so digestion is both extracellular, that is in the colentron, and intracellular, that is in the nutritive muscular cells of the endoderm. So in the extracellular, that is in the they have a particular digestive system, a very simple form of digestive system. So it is extracellular, and within the cells also digestion happens, okay, in the nutritive muscular cells or endoderm. Nervous system was a primitive type, very less evolved nervous system, formed of diffused nerve net formed by non-polarized nerve cells. So these are basically non-polarized nerve cells. Their nervous system has not developed so far. In sponges there was no nervous system at all. In cnidarians, nervous system has developed, okay, and tissue level of organization has also developed. So we are seeing the evolutionary aspect of these species as well. Statocyst, that is sensory structures, occurs in medusoid form. So this is basically the statocyst. This is the nerve cell. It is the medusoid form of nerve cell, okay. Some cnidarians have calcium carbonate exoskeleton. So calcium exoskeleton means external skeleton. There is no internal skeleton. Some of the cnidarians will show an external format of skeleton, and this is primarily made up of calcium carbonate, okay. So coral forming cnidarians. So these are basically corals. If you see a lot of people go in search of corals, so this is basically what corals are, okay, cnidarians. So polyp and medusa body forms can either be in the polyp form, cnidarians, or they can be either medusa. So this is the medusa format of body form of cnidarians, and this is the polyp form of cnidarians, okay. Shows two basic body forms: polyp, which is sessile, and cylindrical forms. This is sessile, which means that it will not be able to move, just as sponges are, okay, and it is in the cylindrical form. Examples are Hydra and Adamsia, okay. These are basically examples. So these are pretty much fixed. Medusa, the medusa format will be a free swimming and umbrella shape, just as we have jellyfish, okay. So jellyfish is a free swimming format, okay. So metagenesis is exhibited. They exhibit metagenesis, okay, and what? There is basically alteration of generations. So there is alteration of generations, and metagenesis will take place in them, okay. Metagenesis: polypoid forms produce medusae asexually, and medusae form the polypoid forms sexually. So if you look at this, there are two forms of genetic evolution that are happening. So the polypoid forms, which are basically fixed more or less, they will produce medusae asexually. Asexually they will form movable formats, medusae, okay, and then medusae will form polypoid forms sexually, okay. So there is a metagenesis that is happening, okay. So very important, people, metagenesis is two formats of genetic evolution. So polypoids will produce medusae asexually. This is asexual reproduction. This is basically asexual reproduction, and medusae form the polypoid, and this will be sexual, okay. So polypoid first forms medusae asexually, and medusae asexually forms the sexually forms the polypoid. So example, Obelia. So if you look at this, this is how it will form the movable format, the ovary, okay. So if you look at this, this is basically fixed, which is sessile format, okay. The polypoid basically forms these eggs, which are motile, and the sperm. So these are basically the medusae. This is the male part, which has the testis. This will release the sperms. This is the female part, which has the ovary, which will release the eggs. They will fertilize. They will form the zygote. The zygote will divide into blastula. These are free swimming in the larval stage. Then it settles down, forming a new colony, and this is how the new colony is formed. So very simple. The metagenesis is happening. The polypoid is fixed. It will release both ovary and testis, that is male and female parts, and these will be in movable formats, free swimming. They will fertilize by releasing eggs and sperms. They will form the zygote. This will keep on dividing till it forms the blastula, and finally a free swimming planular larva stage is free swimming. So if you notice, the larval stage here for the polypoid is free swimming. Then it finally settles down to the seabed or the floor, and it again develops into a new organism. So polypoid produces medusa asexually. This format is asexual, but again the merging of gametes is happening, the fusion of gametes is happening. So this is sexual, okay, which forms medusae again sexually, and then the entire cycle repeats itself. Okay. So reproduction, asexual, budding, sexual, syngamy, and development is basically what? Development is indirect, outside the body. Okay, development is indirect. Larval stage would be there. So larva is basically what? Free swimming ciliated larva called planula. So as we saw, these are free swimming larval stages and they will be known as planula. Okay. Classification, phylum Cnidaria is classified into three classes. Cnidaria is basically classified into three classes. One is hydrozoa, the other one is scyphozoa, and the third one here is anthrozoa. So these are the three classes of cnidarians: hydrozoa, scyphozoa, and anthrozoa. Okay. So in hydrozoa they may be solitary, that is hydra, and they are pretty much fixed, or conolial, that is oblea. So they may be staying in colonies, or they can exist in solitary confinements as well. Okay. They are polypoid forms and free swimming. So polypoid forms, which means fixed and can be free swimming as well, hydrozoa. Polyp and medusoid forms are alternate with each other. Polyp and medusoid forms alternate with each other. So both forms are pretty much existing correlatively. Okay. So see, this gets converted into this, and finally this gets converted into this. So there is a cycle that happens. There is a cycle that happens, alternate with each other. This is alternation of generations. Mesoglea, non-cellular. So the middle part here is non-cellular. Colentron, undivided. Colentron is basically the digestive cavity, undivided, simple. Cnidocytes occur only in the ectoderm. So these are poisonous cells. They will occur only in the ectoderm, which is more or less the same as the epidermis that we have. Okay, that is basically the ectoderm. Remember, these are basically diploblastic, so they will have the ectoderm and the mesoderm. Okay, so no endoderm, obviously. Germ cells are derived from the ectoderm. So we know that they are diploblastic animals and they are triploblastic animals. So in diploblastic animals and in triploblastic animals we have divisions. So these cells are derived from, germ cells are derived from ectoderm. Okay, some exhibit polymorphism while different types of zooids, okay, with different types of zooids. Example, Physalia. Okay, so different body formats are there. Example, if you look at this, this is hydra, this is a freshwater polyp, which is, polyp means fixed. Okay, this is basically obelia, this is sea fur, and this is basically Physalia. This is Portuguese man of war, which is also known by this common name. So these are common names that are given. Zooid is a single individual in a colony. Single individual in a colony of cnidarians. Do you know why Physalia is commonly called Portuguese man of war or man of war? The word man of war means a battleship with cannons and other powerful weapons. Portugal once had. Physalia had many tentacles provided with venomous stinging cells. As we know that they have cnidocytes, so these are stinging cells that are harmful to other organisms, hence the name Portuguese man of war. Okay, so Physalia are also known as Portuguese man of war because they have quite a number of tentacles which excrete poisonous substances. Scyphozoa, commonly known as jellyfishes, as they possess a large quantity of jelly-like mesoglea. So they actually have a large quantity of mesoglea, and that is jelly-like. Solitary and medusoid in form. So they can either be solitary or they can be medusoid, and they are generally solitary. They do not live in colonies, and they are medusoid in form, which means that they are not in polypoid form. They keep on moving. Okay, they are not fixed at one place. Mouth is surrounded by 4 oral arms. Okay, so their mouth is surrounded by 4 oral arms. Colentron is divided into 4 chambers and some canals. We know colentron is what? The gastrovascular cavity, and here in jellyfish it is divided into 4 chambers and some canals. So mesoglea basically contains amoebocytes. So mesoglea contains amoebocytes. Cnidocytes occur in ectoderm and endoderm in jellyfish. Okay, germ cells are derived from the ectoderm. So this is how the entire jellyfish would look like. This is basically these are the tentacles, this is the radial canal. Okay, we have the gastric filament, gastric pouch, gonad. So these are the sexual organs, that is gonads, This is the stomach, the gastrodermis, and then here we have the mesoglia. This is the mesoglia part. This is the epidermis, which will have the stinging cells. Okay, manubrium, and then we have the mouth. There is an oral arm. This is basically the oral arm, the branchial groove and subgenital pit. So these things are there in a jellyfish. Examples like this is basically a jellyfish, rhizostoma. This is Aurelia jellyfish or moon jelly. Anthozoa or actinozoa, commonly known as sea anemones. These are known as sea anemones. Okay, so what are these sea anemones? So that is how it is. Sedentary and only polyploid forms. They will be fixed at one place. They will not be moving, and they are only existing in polyploid forms only. They will not exist in medusae forms. Colentrata is divided into several compartments by vertical septa called mesenteries. So these are mesenteries. Mesoglia contains connective tissue. The mesoglia part will basically contain connective tissue. Cnidocytes occur both in ectoderm and endoderm. So cnidocytes, again the poisonous stinging cells, they will occur in the external ectoderm and the endoderm as well. Okay. Germ cells derived from the endoderm. Here the germ cells are derived from the endoderm. Okay. Examples: Corallium rubrum, precious red stone coral. Okay. Then we have Adamsia, that is sea anemone. So these are basically the examples. Then we have Gorgonia, that is sea fan. Then we have Panatula, that is sea pen. All these are examples. Okay, so Hydrozoa, Scyphozoa and Anthozoa, they are commonly referred to as hydras. They are commonly referred to as hydras. Scyphozoa, they are commonly referred to as jellyfishes. We saw these things. Okay, we are just seeing the differences. They are commonly referred to as sea anemones. Okay, so these are the three species of that we have for them. Okay, Cnidoblasts. Okay, then we have, they may be Colentratas. They may be solitary, that is hydra, or can be existing in colonias. They are solitary and they are solitary as well. Okay. Hydrozoa, Scyphozoa and Anthozoa, life history includes sedentary, fixed at one place, asexual, polyploid form and free swimming sexual medusoid form with alternating with each other. So they have alteration of generations. Okay. So they will have a polyploid form, which is basically the start. It gets converted into the medusa form, and then the medusa form basically has sexual reproduction, and then again it gets converted into the polyploid form. So this is basically Oblea. They are free swimming medusoid in form. They are all their lifespan they will be in medusoid form. Here we have alteration of generation. So in polyploid, then medusa, and then again it gets converted into polyploid forms. And this is what they are: sedentary and only polyploid in form. Sedentary, they will not move, and the reproduction will also be in the polyploid format. Okay. Mesoglia is non-cellular. Here, large quantity of jelly-like mesoglia. Mesoglia contains connective tissues. This will basically contain connective tissues. More differences out here. Colentron is undivided. That is simple. The gastrovascular cavity that we have will be undivided and simple. Colentron is divided into 4 chambers and some canals, and colentron is divided into several compartments by vertical septa called mesenteries. So the colentron is divided into several chambers and compartments. Okay. We have cnidocytes or cnidoblasts that occur only in the ectoderm. Okay, they occur only. Cnidocytes occur in both ectoderm and endoderm. So these cnidocytes occur only in the ectoderm, which is basically the external part. They occur in the ectoderm as well as the endoderm. Okay, and here we have cnidocytes occur in both ectoderm and endoderm. These are differences which we have to fortunately or unfortunately remember, people. Hydrozoa, the germ cells are derived from ectoderm. Scyphozoa, the germ cells are derived from endoderm. Okay, and here the germ cells are derived from endoderm. Okay, some exhibit polymorphism with different types of zooids. So polymorphism is exhibited, no polymorphism is exhibited here, and similarly no polymorphism is exhibited here as well. Examples are Hydra, which is freshwater polyp, Oblea, that is sea fur, and Physalia, that is Portuguese man of war. Examples: Aurelia, that is jellyfish or moon jelly. Then we have Rhizostoma, and then we have examples here as Adamsia, sea anemone, Corallium rubrum, precious redstone coral, or Gorgonia, that is sea fan, or Panatula, that is sea pen. All these have to be made a note of, people. So we'll look at some MCQs that we have to have a clarity on these things. Okay, so let's look at this. The cells used for anchorage, defense and capture of prey are cnidoblasts, choanocytes, stachocytes, nerve cells. Obviously it will be cnidoblasts. Okay, the sensory structures are called polyp, medusa, statocytes or cnidoblasts. So we know that this will be basically statocytes. Okay, examples for polyp: hydra, rhizostoma, aurelia or adamsia. So hydra is the example. Examples for medusa: hydra, aurelia, rhizostoma, both 2 and 3. Medusa, which means basically the movable format. Okay, so it will be both 2 and 3, that is rhizostoma and aurelia. Okay, just a moment here. So people, we have basically covered porifera and we have also covered cnidarians, and now we are going to cover the third phylum, which is basically Annelida. Okay, so we will see their characteristic features as well. So we are going to cover Annelida, phylum Annelida. Okay, so this is basically Annelida. These phylums Annelida, segmented body plan. They have proper segmented body plan. Okay, their body is properly divided into segments. So Annelida, that is, annulus means rings. They have rings all throughout their body, and eidos means forms. So that's how it was coined. This term was coined by, the term Annelida was coined by Lamarck. Okay, so this was coined by Lamarck, and may be aquatic, marine and freshwater or terrestrial. So all three formats are basically there for them. They can be either aquatic, which can be marine or freshwater, and they can be terrestrial as well. So they can exist in all three formats. Okay, so all three habitats are possible for them: free living and sometimes parasitic. If they happen to enter by accident into some living body, some living entity or animal, then they become parasitic. Okay, so generally they are free living, they can manage their own, but if they accidentally happen into the intestinal walls or into the guts, then they will become parasitic. They will draw their nutrition from the host. Okay, so organ system level of body organization. So first we saw sponges, which had basically only cellular level. Then we saw cnidarians, which actually developed into tissue level, and now we are seeing a proper organ system: cells, then tissues, and then we have organ system level of body organization. So we see the evolutionary aspect step by step. The complexity is increasing as we move from one phylum to other. We see that the complexity of the organism is also increasing. So they are metamerically segmented. So externally there is segmentation. Body symmetry, bilateral symmetry exists. You can actually divide them into two equal halves. The germ layers, they are triploblastic. So they are basically triploblastic, means that all three germ layers, that is ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm, are present. Okay, also if we see the body cavity, this is basically schizocolium, which actually develops mainly from the mesoderm layer. Okay, so the body cavity here has developed from the mesoderm layer, and hence it is known as schizocolium. Okay, now body and the column are divided by transverse septa into segments called metameres. So these are segments, these rings that you see, the body is basically divided into rings. Okay, longitudinal muscles are present, circular muscles are also present, colymic fluid is there, then we have setae, okay, and then we have parapodia, and then we have suckers. All of this help in locomotion. So they can move. Now no longer they are sessile. We have studied in sponges, they are primarily sessile. In cnidarians we had basically polyp and medusiforms. So some are sessile and some are free swimming. Here all of them are basically moving in, and all these things that you see, suckers, parapodia, setae, colymic fluid, circular muscles, longitudinal muscles, all of them will help in their locomotion. So they are going to move. Okay, so coelom with coelymic fluid provides a hydrostatic skeleton. Now what do we mean by hydrostatic skeleton? It's like a fluid. This fluid moves and the body actually moves, the animal moves. Just as we have a proper bone skeleton, here we have a hydrostatic skeleton, which means that due to the water pressure, the coelymic fluid, it exerts a pressure and hence it moves, giving stiffness to the body parts, thus aiding in locomotion. Aquatic annelids such as Nereis possess lateral appendages, the parapodia, which help in swimming. So obviously they have to move in aquatic environment by swimming, and these are appendages which are known as parapodia. They help in swimming. So this is how an Annelida animal species would look like. So these are known as Nereis. Cephalization is more pronounced with distinct head and sense organs. So this is basically what cephalization means: development of nervous tissue and the entire complexity of the nervous system. So they have definite distinct head and sense organs. Okay. Respiration is by simple diffusion through the body wall. In Nereis, highly vascularized parapodia helps in respiration. So respiration is by simple diffusion. So from one body to the other body, it's basically diffusion that is happening through the body wall. And in Nereis, highly vascularized parapodia help in respiration. So Nereis is basically a species for this phylum, and that is all. Nervous system consists of paired ganglia, that is cerebral and subpharyngeal. Okay, so their nerve ring is there. Double ventral ganglionated nerve cord is also present. Okay, so closed type of circulatory system. Closed type of circulatory system, their circulatory system is not open. It's a closed circulatory system, just as we have here. Okay, hemoglobin. Then we have chlorochlorine are respiratory pigments dissolved in plasma. That is the unique feature in invertebrates. This you have to remember. Okay, so there are some things in invertebrates. This is one of the unique features. Hemoglobin and chlorochlorine are respiratory pigments which are dissolved in plasma, and they help in the respiration. Okay, so this is the unique feature that exists in invertebrates. The excretion again happens by nephridia. Even in our kidneys we have nephridian units. Okay, so the filtration happens here. Metanephric nephridia, this is basically derived from ectoderm. This basically is coming from the germ layer ectoderm. Okay, nephridia helpful for the osmoregulation and excretion, maintenance of water balance in the body, as well as excretion of the waste products. Okay, sense organs like eyes, palps and tentacles are found in some. May be dioecious, that is unisexual, that is example is Nereis. We have to remember these examples. Or monoecious, that is earthworm and leech, which are basically bisexual, or hermaphrodite, both the sex organs in one organism, only one sex organ in one organism. So they can be either dioecious, that is Nereis, or monoecious, that is earthworm or leech, which are basically bisexual or hermaphrodite. Reproduction is sexual. Development is direct in monoecious, which means that it happens within the body, and indirect in dioecious, again that larval stage and pupa stage and all that stage. Okay, so trochophore larva occurs in the life history. So this is basically the trochophore larva stage, and occurs in the life history. Cleavage is holoblastic, complete and spiral. So the cleavage finally happens and the development of the body takes place. Okay, coelomic fluid acts as hydrostatic skeleton, endoskeleton, exoskeleton and chemical balancing. So we have seen that coelomic fluid here will act as the hydrostatic skeleton, which will help in the locomotion of these species. Okay, then we have nervous system, which consists of brain and dash and double ventral nerve cord. So brain, nerve ring, spinal cord and ganglion. So this will be a nerve ring. Okay, so we will start with Annelida now. Okay.